Good morning everyone, welcome to a new video and episode of Crypto Michael. It's going to be a relative short update about the markets in which we're going to discuss some altcoins and what perspectives they have. Overall, market is doing relatively fine, which is great for continuation of this market. And if you want to stay tuned to my updates, as I'm providing daily video updates or daily YouTube updates, is subscribing to the channel or like the video beneath so you can stay tuned. Also, please follow me on Instagram so you can see the tips and tricks in my life over there as well, as we're just starting up on that platform essentially. So Zilliqa, we have been discussing this one a while recently, in which we were saying, okay, we've had a nice expansion out of a nice accumulation range, and where are the levels to be seen for potential support resistance flips? And we also defined these levels through price history, in which we knew that these levels were untested. And these levels were tested now and provided support, which is essentially very great for continuation. So normally the price would come back to these zones to test these previous levels for support, and we did that. We did make a nice bottom structure on Zilliqa, through which we continue to rally upwards. And if you see an upwards running momentum here, you can essentially identify great support resistance flip and buy entries. As you can see, the first one was done at the 166 level after rejecting at the resistance at 182. Then a renewed rally towards the next resistance level and untested level at 191. Flipped the previous level at 179 for support. Then started to run significantly, as there is not many levels in between, and ran towards 270 and 217 and 225 area here. Rejected there, and I've tweeted something about the rejection there, that if you want to take an entry, you're going to look for the previous level of resistance for the new entry, and in this case that's defined at the 191 zone. So that's providing support. Rallied even further up. I would not be expecting such a rally there, so I probably would have been out at the 231 level already, but okay, we rallied a little bit further up towards 242 to 247, which essentially is also a resistance zone, and bounced back down, in which you can identify that the previous order block or support resistance level is identically what you want to see as support. Clearly, yes, it's below the recent high, but overall the structure is still intact, as this is the level that should be held if it wants to continue moving. If this level is lost, the structure is lost, and you're most likely going to look for longs in this area. So Zilliqa bounced from the support level. Most likely case right now is that we're going to consolidate for a little while before we continue. We do make higher highs, higher lows, so essentially the next higher high after compression in this range should be towards 260 to 270, as that's the next resistance zone. And then the question will generally become whether we can hold this previous range high, which is essentially the 228 level. If we do hold that, we might be even possible to making new highs. If we do lose to 28, then we got a clearly long lasting range bound structure on Zilliqa. Then XLM, which essentially is doing what I wanted it to be doing. We broke out of the range here. You have to get the 100 and 200 MA going. We broke out of the range, and we are essentially testing the previous range high for support, so that's all fine. And what you generally see is, and also I've tweeted this one, is that once it comes back to the support, it bounces towards the first resistance, which is this block, then comes back down to test for support, and then it starts to grind. And there are some other examples also in this chart, which is showing that case. Here's another one. So essentially this is not a bad PA structure, it's just healthy and general structure in which we are holding above the 100 day and 200 day MA. Volume is dropping down, which essentially is going to show that there's going to be a big wave coming up. Overall above the 100 day and 200 day MA, which is also a bullish structure. And generally we are looking for, well, we've got a new higher low, as you can see. We've got this low here. We've got we've tested this level. We've got a higher low. We are testing the previous support for support again, so double bottom structure. And given that we've also made a new higher high, it's very likely that after this bottom structure, if we hold the 830 to 860 level, we're going to look for that new higher high, which essentially should bring us towards 1400 to 1600 sets. So if you want to look for stellar lumen longs, these are the zones you want to watch for potential entries. Then Stellar USDT. I do not fancy all the USDT charts at this point, even Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is going to retrace a little bit, and that would also cause some altcoins USDT pairs to just drop down a little bit, which essentially is providing opportunities if you didn't take them yet. So XLM not looking too great here on a USDT chart on the daily time frame. Essentially the level to hold is also this 9.5 cents area. If we drop below 9.5 cents, I would be inclined to look for longs around the 8.2 to 8.4 cent zone. Yeah, it's not looking too great, but if we get there, I think that's going to be that higher low that you want to see. Essentially also a range bound structure, as we have been doing that relatively often with charts. Nothing goes up in a straight line. If we do hold here, we get a nice sort of falling wedge structure, and then we make the higher low and support resistance flip, and the next higher high should bring us towards 14 cents. Then finally Ripple, which essentially is doing the same. We made a nice bounce, we made a nice rally. We got support on the 4-hour time frame here, which could induce that we can get the range high supports tested or range high resistances tested at 30.5 and 31 cents, and that's why I took a small long. But if we take the daily time frame, we can see that we are still waiting to buy the dip or areas at 24 and 21.2 cents. That's also why you never buy into resistance zones. But if we clearly get this support resistance flip off these two zones, of only of one, the next higher high should bring us towards 40 cents. XRP BTC, same structure, resistance zone hit, and now we're testing whether one of these two levels can define support. If these two do, actually, this is if you want to swing trade, this is your first entry, and this is your second entry, or you'll enter after more confirmation for that second portion. If we do hold here, the next rally should bring us towards 3700. Alright, that's a small update on the markets. I hope you have enjoyed it. And please stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram and like beneath. And I'll see you tonight at the podcast of Cointelegraph.